Computer. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first call to action in 2018, Planetary Healing Call to Action. We're really excited about it. I want to introduce my husband, Mark.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Mark. Hi, Mark. Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, Mark.
So this is the way it is. Okay.
Hi, Mark. Oh, wait, there's also this way. Watch this.
Okay.
Hi, Mark.
Oh, my goodness.
Mark.
Look at all those people. Okay. Stage fright. I'm out of here.
So, okay, wait a minute now.
So when you hear Nikki, what it looks like she's talking to herself, I'm actually here. It's okay.
I can't get myself back.
Go up to the corner and go speaker view.
Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. So Mark's the visionary of the family, and we sat down during the auspicious full moon, right?
Yep.
And asked for the journey for what we need to do to help heal the planet for right now. And it was amazing.
What came in was a surprise.
It was a surprise, and there was so much synchronicity. And when we talked to Debbie, it was as though she was part of the conversation, and what she was saying in a regular conversation was a contribution to what we're doing. And then Indigo came over, and I tried it out on her, and what she said became part of it. And it turned out that this is also going to be part of the book that I'm doing with her on Ma'at, who is both the goddess and concept of truth, balance.
It's like everybody's on the same page.
He's saying everybody's on the same page. Yeah, anyway, we're all on the same page. But I should explain Ma'at, because ultimately I believe that this is part of our service to Ma'at. And so she represents truth, balance, cosmic law, and justice. And when things get out of whack and the balance gets askew like it is right now, well, that's when Sekhmet gets called in. And that's why so many people are seeing aliens and having visions of Sekhmet, and she'll come into their dreams and she's being called. And of course, I'll say this now because I'll forget. I am doing what might be the last class that I do on Sekhmet, starting a week from today, I guess it is. Right, a week from tonight. And it'll be 6 sessions. And just go to my website to find out about it if you're called. There's still time, but you want to start preparing right away. So let me know. So if you don't have the book, I can get it to you right away. Okay. So this, where are my notes? Oh, here they are. So we're going to be doing a meditation that is not just an initiation and a journey, but it's one that you'll want to repeat and practice and exercise the things that you learn so that you can get better at it and better at it. And I've not been what you'd call a good meditator in my life. My mind jumps track a lot. And so if you have that problem like me, because I've been working really hard at trying to stay on track so that I can fully get this, because I've been here before through other routes. But if we can do it this way, it'll be amazing. And so we have to be able to forgive ourselves if we think we don't do it right, because there is no right way to do it. You just do what you do, and then you respond to what you do. And if you find yourself thinking outside of the focus, then just, forgive yourself and let it go and get back on track. And we just have to keep doing that with our lives right now, because there are so many distractions and so many temptations and so much chaos, that more than ever we need the discipline that is and will be required to really make this work on the long term, on a long-term basis. If anybody has any questions and needs to break in to ask it, if you raise your hand, either Debbie, Indigo, or Nicole will pick it up, and then you can just go or excuse me or whatever, and then I'll know that somebody needs me, and then you can turn on that person. Right. So our minds require discipline and forgiveness when we don't have it or use it. And, and we have to recognize there's no shame in dropping the ball, because that's another thing that really gets in the way. And so we've got to let that one go. Just pick it up and try again. And the longer that you can allow for the blank, nebulous space that we're looking for how to reside in, that becomes your reward for that discipline and having a good meditation. And because we're striving to be able to hold the state of mind, that's the goal of this work tonight, for longer and longer. The main goal of this journey is for you to open the eyes in your heart. And I say it that way because it's all about empowering every one of us to recognize that we have it all. The eyes in our heart have been there who knows how long as humans have, probably, but or since at whatever point that level of conscious was opened to us. And for most of us, it's atrophied because it takes work to get to and hold that space. And if we don't do it, it just atrophies. And so we have to get out of the way in order to accomplish it. And trying to explain and use words to explain how to get out of the way is not the same as getting out of the way. So I'm not even going to try. It's just this funny dance we have to do, and we don't want words to get in the way of it. What, Mark?
And ego.
And ego. Well, that's, yeah. That goes without saying. But I guess, I certainly need to hear it sometimes. So if you're going to do this, even after tonight, there's stuff that you'll have to do to keep it going and keep it on track. Although I'm using words to help catalyze the experience, the aha moment, if you find it, there really aren't any words for it. Makes a good title, but when it really happens, it's so much more than the title suggests. A lot of this is about communicating with the universe, and the universe, well, we don't really know whether the universe speaks English or not. It doesn't really matter, but we can quite clearly communicate with the universe, and it doesn't require words to do it. When we make prayers and wishes from our hearts, we have to be really clear, because the universe is going to hear what you're praying for, even if you don't do it out loud. A good example of that is I have this one wonderful ball of love daughter. My God, she's in her late 40s by now. It's crazy how old I've become. But anyway, one time we put out a prayer for her to have shelter and a dry place to sleep, and 3 squares a day. And sure enough, that night she got arrested. So it's really important that you be clear, because well, that's a pretty good example. Right. You're not failing if you don't get the result you're looking for with every meditation or any meditation. And people tend to get embarrassed or shamed, and then they kind of give up, and we just can't do that anymore. So I must have missed something. All right. So imagine giving your own heart a hug, one of those impossible images to put into words. But you know what a mother embracing a fragile baby looks like, and most of us, or many of us, know what it feels like. And so just take a second to focus on your heart, listen to your heartbeat for a moment, and give your heart a hug, because this is really all about developing a deeper connection with your heart. And notice the feeling that you get when you do that. Feelings actually transmit to the universe better than words. And there's no words for the feeling of a loving embrace, but we've all felt it and know exactly what it feels like. So tonight we're going to use words to try and get to a place of feeling. And opening the eyes of the heart is allowing that part of your brain that communicates with words and numbers to take a back seat and allow the part of your brain where compassion, feelings, and intuition reside and begin to take the steering wheel. So take a moment to imagine, or if you happen to have a journal with you, just jot down things that you need to lighten up on for yourself so that you can do your own forgiveness work. But even just thinking of those things and thinking about forgiveness will lighten your load sufficiently to make way for this work that we're doing tonight. So, when you do the forgiveness work, the result would eradicate the shame and loathing that holds so many of us back. because we're really harder on ourselves than most people are on us. And just note that this journey will continue long after this phone call, hopefully. So think of the eyes in your heart as another way to communicate with the universe, with others, and with yourself. You receive information as you do with your eyes. You can send and receive it, but it's different than the kind of communication that happens with your mouth and ears. So beware of putting your experience into words that make it a hindrance. So what we're going for, when we were doing research around what we've been discovering, we found a page on neurotheology, and it mentioned spiritual awe, altered states of consciousness, oneness with the universe, ecstatic trance, and sudden enlightenment, which would be very nice indeed. So during this meditation, I'll actually be asking questions at some point. And the trick is to feel into the answers, to try and delve into those answers in a way that doesn't use words. Good luck with that. So I did read all the notes that everybody sent, and it's amazing how many people wanted us to work with water tonight. And sure enough, we're working with water tonight, but in a different way than one might expect. But it's definitely a water journey. And once you achieve the feeling of buoyancy in the fluid and the oneness with the universe, your sensitivities will be heightened, and hopefully to a level where you'll actually be able to experience magnetic fields, and not just those of the electrical equipment around you, but the planetary gravity, the magnetic fields of the universe and of galaxies. And we're aiming for a very heightened level of sensitivity with this work. We do know that there is this subtle magnetic field that we do respond to, whether we're aware of it or not. And so what we're attempting to do is not only recognize that, but develop that awareness and that sensitivity so that we can be more conscious all of the time. I don't think I need to say everything in these notes. Okay. So the kinds of questions that we'll be addressing is like, what is the source, and what muscles, if any, or what tools in our own system do we use to strengthen the sensation of the field once we get to that place? Do you have to tighten some muscles, or are you relinquishing? And what does it take for you to make that connection to the magnetic field? So you really want to pay attention to how this is happening, because it's one thing to be led and it's another thing to do it on your own. But you'll mostly be doing it on your own anyway, because that's the only way you can ultimately do it. What we don't know is how to describe that sensation, or how to recommend a path toward achieving it beyond, well, my experiences of it have mostly been on psychedelics. And when I started teaching, I made a commitment to teach in a way that allowed people those kinds of experiences without having to be looking over your shoulders. Because when I started, everything was legal, and now it's not. And so if we can do it this way, more power to us, because the other road isn't always accessible to us. Or roads, so if there are other paths, the more the merrier. It says here, the next question is there a universal way to experience the magnetism, the field and other forces, or is it individual, something each person has to discover for themselves? Well, hopefully we'll look at this, and after we do it and share it, you can keep that question in mind. We're attempting to go to a place of timelessness. And we're not just talking about for the people that are on this call or the people that are alive at this moment in time, but we're talking about self-awareness from the moment something woke up in someone and spread throughout the human race to take us to the place of self-awareness that we've achieved so far. So since there's so many of us on the call, there's gonna be a lot of variance in what level of sensitivity you're able to obtain. But hopefully it works like a tuning fork. And if one gets it, we'll all get it. And that's what I'm aiming for and hoping for. So other questions where we'll be directing our awareness is, how can we further the awareness of the rest of the planet? Can we sense others in the body of water that we find ourselves in, which morphs as we go through? Can we intuit where the river is going, and can we communicate with others that are in the same current? And can we sense the source of where this river came from? I know so much power was given to the Nile by ancient Egyptians, and they believed that the source was just below Aswan. I mean, it took a long time before they knew where the actual source of that river was. So another question that is kind of begged in all this is, has this been like this throughout eternity? And if it's about infinity, is there a beginning, or has it been going on forever? So just to toss in something to think about. The Big Bang implies that all matter and time began at that moment. But after we've done this, in case I forget, I think we need to relook at that and the possibility of when, if ever, there was a beginning. So opening the heart is akin to stimulating curiosity. And I just recently read that curiosity keeps, what's that word for memory loss, that horrible disease? You know, a huge percentage. There's a huge percentage different of who loses their memory, whether they're curious or not. So we're not just talking in a dark room or being led blindly. We want to open up to communication with something bigger than we ever knew existed. So if there's any questions, once you raise your hand now, I'm going to put this on so I can see if anybody has any questions before we start the journey. Am I missing a page? Got it. Anybody see any questions anywhere? There's a chat somewhere.
I haven't seen anyone put their hands up, either electronically or visually.
Okay. Do you see the chat? Where's the chat from?
The chat, that is still from Piliaka a while ago,
Okay.
unless it's directly to you.
All
I
right.
don't see anything.
Then let's go ahead and start this journey.
Oh, here's Margaret Motherall.
Margaret.
Hi, chat thing.
Welcome, Margaret. I'm going to go ahead and, for lack of anything better, put myself up there. I wish I'd brought a really cool image of Ma'at or something, but wait a minute, I don't know how to do this. There we go. Okay. So I imagine you'll probably close your eyes anyway. But we're not going to take the time to do the full heart breath tonight. Just consider that hug, or maybe give yourself another hug. Heart hug. And take some deep breaths, relax, and try and cut loose of any baggage. And put your attention on your heart and your heartbeat. Because when you can feel your own heartbeat, you're halfway there. You are missing the first words. Interesting. I didn't come out in this printout. I think I printed out the wrong version, but I think Mark saw us initially sitting by the river.
Or have we gone?
I guess we'll start there. In the beginning of it, it's just kind of like our notes, looking at the timelessness of life itself and using the Nile as a metaphor for that. But for now, feel yourself standing barefoot on a well-tended, lush lawn. There's thick shrubbery that lends to the feeling of privacy. Your clothing is stiff, coarse, and a little scratchy. You're wearing pants, possibly jeans, that reach down to your ankles. One edge of the lawn in this little hideaway is a large wading pool that fades into a thick fog about 10 or 20 feet out. As you walk toward it, notice the freshness of this cool, almost cold lawn and the moist earth that it's growing in. Feel it with the soles in your feet. A molded baseball-sized spheres made of cement line the edge of the pool that you're approaching. The rim that you will be stepping over to enter the pool is at ground level, and the moss-covered bottom of the pool is barely ankle deep. When you step over the rim, you can feel the cement through the moss, the texture of the cement through the moss. And even though you can't see it, your feet are informing you of the cold water, the moss, and the cement. So it's probably a good time to roll up your pants. And so just reach down and roll them up a little bit. As you step away, the water becomes noticeably deeper. So when it reaches your calf, you need to reach down and roll up your cuffs further, and you notice that the material of your pants has become softer, thinner, and more voluminous. It's easy to roll your cuffs above your knees as there's no resistance. So you can now take a few more steps and stop when the water reaches your knees, and take a moment to notice the change in the temperature of the water. It's become quite comfortable, as though it's been heated. You can't see the bottom, you can't even see your feet, yet you know that you're in a safe and sacred place. Meanwhile, the water has become cloudy, similar to the fog that's ahead of you. And you can see and feel as your clothes change and morph. They become softer, almost cloud-like, and warm, so that you're very comfortable. The water, the air, you, and everything is orienting to the same temperature. So just stand there and enjoy the transition of all these sensations. As you start to step forward again, the water becomes thicker, feels thicker. We've all waded in water at this depth, and so we can remember what it feels like when you're stepping against the resistance of water, and yet every footfall lands firmly on the ground below. The one difference you're feeling now is the resistance of water as you place it with each step, as you go further into the pool. It becomes more difficult to find your footing now that the water has become waist deep. And you're also aware that your clothes have all but disappeared. They're now just wispy clouds. And meanwhile, you're having to push against the water and push each foot down to touch the bottom, which has become earth. This continues until the water level reaches about to your belly button, which is a good time to stop and just kind of reflect and review. One thing you notice is the extreme buoyancy. When you stand on your tiptoes, you go up a little quicker than you expect. You've become almost like a cork bobbing in the water and have to depend on your toes as you step forward. For only your toes can help you grip the bottom until you reach nipple depth. And that's when you become so buoyant, your toes no longer can assist you. So just lean back and allow the front of you to come up so that you're floating on the surface of the water. Perhaps unlike previous experiences in water, you're floating high on the surface, almost as though you're levitating. You and the cloud that now engulfs you. Remember, you've gone further out into this pool than you can see when you were standing on the lawn, and the fog is thick. There's also soft lighting here, as though the cloud, the water that you're in, everything is emitting its own light. As you lie there in perfect comfort and equilibrium, begin to empty your brain of thoughts and seek other sensations. Notice the shift from your logical brain to the intuitive brain as you empty your mind of thoughts and judgments. The heart begins to take predominance as logic takes a back seat. The strength of the connection between your heart, your third eye, and your pineal gland shifts during the empowerment that you're receiving. And the strength of your connection between the heart and the universe becomes noticeably stronger. If you notice yourself being tempted to think in words, remember this ongoing balancing act and push the words back, returning your attention to your heartbeat. And pay close attention as the adjustment occurs. See if you can feel as the connection is being made between your third eye, your pineal gland, and your heart. For this connection not only awakens your memory of the eyes in your heart, and it also aligns your will with the wisdom and truth that you see or perhaps sense with the eyes of your heart. As the connection takes hold, the senses associated with the eyes in your heart become heightened, and your sensitivity becomes such that you can even feel the sources of electromagnetic fields that are being emitted from the electronic devices that are around you, or any electric devices. Notice how different it is when you're perceiving through the eyes in your heart. They may not see the same way as your physical eyes do. And as your sensitivity continues to heighten, you begin to notice, it's like you move beyond the local electromagnetic sensitivities, and you can begin to notice the difference between how you experienced gravity and the subtle magnetic fields of our planet, our sun, and other sources. As it expands, allow yourself to feel the subtle magnetism of the universe. And distinguish between the strong gravity of our home planet and the subtle gravities of other planets and distant stars and galaxies. Seek the sensation of how you can go about strengthening the connection to your eyes in your heart. Feel as like a blind person who suddenly gains sight. The open eyes of your heart begin to reveal what feels like a new way of seeing. Even though these eyes have always been open, almost like a film has been removed that's just like dust from lack of use, from whatever level that you're at. Because I know many of you are very advanced and already well aware of these magnetic fields, but we're seeking to expand even further, to get beyond what's normally thought of as the limits of consciousness or the limits of time, the limits of space, the limits of the universe. How does that feel? Where do you feel it? Can you enhance the ability to perceive at this level? And when you discover how you can enhance it, can you exercise that gift? It might feel as though you're working an actual muscle. It could even be a physical muscle. Or a mental or spiritual psychic workout. Whatever you discover works for you, do it. Exercise it. You'll find that the eyes of your heart provide another way to communicate with the universe and with others and yourself, as I said earlier. And so see if you can notice how you give and receive information. And maybe the information is of a different kind, but certainly the way you use it, the way you retrieve and send this information is different than when you use your mouth and your ears. There's no need to try and translate your experience into words. That just might hinder things. So just simply be with it, feel it, own it. And at a certain point, you realize you're not alone. For everyone who has ever and will ever discover the eyes of their heart and see with them are here with us at this time. Although you cannot see the banks, it feels as if you've transitioned into a large, deep, and slow-moving river. And you can sense others moving along with you, as well as those who come before you and those that are following. Notice that in this timeless moment, we're not just referring to people on this call or those who are alive at this moment in time. We're addressing self-awareness from the moment in time when something woke up in humanity and spread to become the level of self-awareness that we have achieved thus far. And as you explore these new sensory perceptions, allow the following questions to sink into your consciousness. Can we further the direction of awareness that we, the people of this world, are on? Can we sense the others that are in this river? Can we send, receive from others in the river? Or rather, can we communicate with them? Can we intuit where the river is going? Can we sense the source of this river, if there is one? Or is there any beginning at all? Maybe this has been going on forever. And if so, are we talking about other dimensions as well? If infinity is the path that we discover, or that you discover, then perhaps this universe came from another dimension that we have yet to explore. Just keep expanding your senses. Exercise those muscles. while you've been exploring, two large, bed-size actually, crystals have come into your awareness both above and below you. They're not touching, but a field similar to that of electromagnetism is sourced in each. And you are at the intersection of these two fields, which both enhances the sense of floating and allows you to realize that what's happening to you is more like levitation. As you continue to strengthen your sensitivities to magnetism and gravity, the energy running through the crystals are also strengthened. While working on receiving information, you've also been strengthening your abilities to transmit information as it comes to you. And so there's an interaction with these crystals where you're actually feeding each other. And in doing so, your presence in this universe is becoming as a beacon whose light is sourced in the essence of love and truth. We now find ourselves in a position to look past the moment that time was created. We can sense the dimension from whence all space and matter originated. There's a hint of even something beyond that. But it is to be explored when your sensitivities have been further strengthened. Or you might have a revelation. Again, feel the new abilities that you're experiencing. And while doing so, consciously recognize the circular empowerment between you and the crystals in which you're suspended. Evaluating and exercising these new sensations is something that you will come back to during your meditations. But now it's time to start returning to the being that you have become throughout your life thus far. And it's a time for gratitude. So offer gratitude to a great intelligence that's always been and is capable of noticing you. Offer gratitude to the water, the crystals, the river, every grain of sand, every molecule in your body, and all of the people who are seeking truth from the same river, as though the blood that beats from your heart is part of the circulatory system to which you and all others in this river are connected. Take a moment to feel that sense of oneness. Also thank any and all supportive beings from this or other dimensions that you are, or possibly are not yet, aware of. Take a deep breath. And as you let it out, as you exhale, begin to feel your body once again. Notice any residual sensations flowing to and fro that is new to your senses. Be okay with however it is, knowing that you can always go back to and immerse yourself in this great river of life and awareness. So while you're grounding yourselves, I'll just read the last bits of my notes. By increasing our sensitivities, it's one thing to be aware of our ever-changing universe. It's another to be in contact with the furthest reaches of our changing universe. The longer you work with these meditations, the further you can go and expand. We have an opportunity to co-create at this new level. And the future lies in what we do with it and how we collaborate with the universe. Hopefully, we now have more ways of perception with which to interface with this ever-changing universe. And this will require work. More meditations and more strengthening of the muscles of whatever new tools you've discovered this awesome night. People's perceptions and what we know to be truth are not always the same. Spirit can give us all sorts of things, But not all of it is true for everyone. What's the line between crazy and sane? The ability to commune with spirit in a way that makes sense in our consensual reality. Not everything we receive in vision is coherent with outer truth. It becomes our obligation to become masters of discernment as our consciousness continues to expand. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. I can only see what's on the screen. So is anybody on the screen ready to share?
Did you bring them back into their body?
Did I bring you back into your body? Yeah, I did. Thank you, Mark. Ground and center. And if you need some help, let us know. Or here, I'll just reach down and press everybody's thumb toe down into the ground, and that should do it. Okay, Judy Ann. You have to speak up because yours is
Okay.
soft.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
louder.
It was louder. It was really interesting. I found that when the crystals were one on top and one on the bottom, it made me jerk. It was like my body was jerking, and then it was like there was, you know how when you see you throw a pebble in the water and it goes out like that. You could just almost see all the energy just sort of like floating farther and farther out. And as it went farther, the energy got lighter and lighter. And I didn't realize how dense it feels here compares to when you're way out there. It's like floating, and like you're just not even connected to really much of anything. It's just there. But yet you could feel the connection with everything. And then I saw this big book that was made out of leather, and I couldn't see the writing on it, but there was it was carved deeply into the leather, and the book was brown. And when I opened the book, all the letters floated up, so I couldn't read. And I thought, oh, I would love to have been able to start to read. But I found it made me feel more grounded and more connected with everything, but yet a stillness that I have never felt before. That's how I felt.
Thank you. That was a wonderful share. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That everybody could hear
Yeah, I think everybody could hear Mark. Wait, I'm trying to get the gallery view again. Okay, who's next? Debbie, you catch him if I don't. Tammy.
That was absolutely wonderful, Nikki. So the water, I definitely felt a sense of floating and weightlessness. But when you said, are we able to give and receive from the others in the water, it was just the most beautiful feeling of fullness, of just no lack whatsoever. I just felt energy flowing to and fro. And in my one of the last journeys I did in our Sekhmet circle, I could see myself just as my chakras, just as my energy wheels, and I saw another being just as their energy wheels, and I saw the infinity just going back and forth between us and up each energy center. And I felt that same sense of the infinity flowing between myself and everything else, or at least everyone else in that space. And when you mentioned the crystals, immediately mine were blue and green and very, very brilliantly shining. And again, just a sense of no need, no lack, no want, no desire, just everything in fullness.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting to see where this is going. Who else? Don't be shy. Was anybody able to experience communication or communion with other during this? Debbie, you look like you're wanting to say something.
I was just waiting to see if someone else had anything to say, but
Good.
yeah. There was a total connection, so that it felt that everything that I was feeling outside of myself also existed within myself. So there was no separation.
Interesting.
And I went immediately out into the stars. So I could feel the pulsing of the stars around us, as well as the earth and the moon and the sun.
Were you able to feel as though you, by your thoughts or your sensitivities, had some control in the direction of the moment in that larger scale connection with the universe?
Yes, I could focus. I could bring my attention into a direction and bring that into awareness, more like into a present. It was like everything was out and around and everything existed simultaneously. But by focusing slightly, by shifting.
Like if you were to recognize that moment and insert peace, a specific like peace, but without using, well, you're at total peace.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure whether figuring out how to do this is what is required here.
It just exists. As I stepped both outside and inside, because I was in both places at once. So I was within myself and outside of myself. And as soon as I let that go, it was total peace and total connection. And I could feel the energies from everyone that's here on the call. Very subtle feeling. Trying to put it into words, it's...
Well, that we don't want to get too hung up on words. We want to share and we want to catalyze that curiosity and that excitement. But we don't want to, there's a fine line.
So I've written down a couple of things. First was no vision. Nothing was visual. It was all feeling.
Interesting.
And all that is both within and without and outside of us as in existence.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Mm.
Nicole, how about you?
It was interesting that I started out as a man. Immediately on the lawn, I was a man. viscerally. That doesn't usually happen to me. As I waded into the water, and then when we made that pineal third eye heart connection, it was wonderful. So thank you so much for that piece. That was really, really good. So it was an inner connection that I sensed at first, and then it expanded outward until it became like like a torus energy. So, and that's how I was experiencing connecting with the flow of everything else. It was this constant torus energy flow. And that's how I could receive information. And again, it was more of a felt sense. It was of just energy outside and connections. Otherwise, it was just this constant flow, pouring through me, out and through and continually. And then when we sensed those crystal beds, it was like kicking it up. There was this huge light explosion, and it was almost like all this fast forward of images, and I got a sense of it was just all the dimensions, like multiple dimensions existing, and it took me to basically the image of like the cosmic tree, and a sense of it continually growing. And then a sense of where it's growing and who or what is watching. I don't know who, but that's where it was taking me outside of the tree. So it was an amazing journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else reach beyond?
Mark wants to know if anyone reached beyond the Big Bang.
Yeah.
That's
I
think that's the point where I went within and without at the same time.
Yeah.
I got a sense of the Big Bang as part of the tree. As there's like we were just a leaf starting to grow. It was just a new growth on this tree.
There you go.
I like it.
Yeah, perfect. Good image.
Very good.
Yeah, that's clearly you got there. Speaking of men, Paul, how are things in South Africa?
Great. It's just that it's still early morning here, so I woke up at 3:30 to watch this.
Oh my goodness. My goodness, thank you. And how was it for you?
Beautiful, quite beautiful. Of course, it's very difficult to describe how it felt.
I can relate. I'm trying to put the wordless into words, like trying to figure out how to get this journey to work. But it sounds like it worked. Yeah. Anything else that you'd like to share?
No, that's okay. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you for getting up in the middle of the night to come and be with us and help us, because when we're all sharing that same circulatory system, I'm going to kind of go back and just tell a little story. It was a number of years ago when I was still, I wasn't really hanging out with the dead anymore, but they were doing a concert in Eugene. It might have been one of the last concerts they ever did in Eugene. And I was with a famous physicist, and he'd never been to the dead before. And so I got the joy of turning him on. And we went exploring. And we were standing up at the rim of this stadium. And Mark, do you remember, is it 40,000 or 80,000?
50,000 plus.
50,000 plus, okay. And there was all of a sudden, there was this sensation of everybody's, we were all connected to the same circulatory system. And everybody in the entire, like Fred and I were exchanging blood, but we were exchanging blood with everybody in the entire stadium. It was a remarkable experience. And I had that sense of possibility for people to have that kind of experience with this. And I'm wondering if anybody did. I see a big grin down there. Who is that? Ita? Who are you? Let me bring you up so I can see your face. Wait, you're muted. Turn your volume up. I can't hear you.
His microphone may be turned off.
Maybe your microphone's turned off. Don't know what to do.
Maybe
Oh,
because
darn it, he wants to share.
maybe because his headphones are plugged in.
Yeah, good idea.
Can you hear that?
Did you unplug them? Still
Heard him for a moment.
Yeah.
okay.
Unplug your headphones. Unplug them. Unplug them.
From my phone. Oh, he's saying hi to us by chat. It happened to another person on this call, and she rebooted and came right on. But I don't know what your situation is with your microphone.
Communicating without words.
But you know, your smile communicated a lot. I have been resonating a lot with what you've been saying throughout this session. Okay, thank you. Thank you, and thank you for coming. Where are you from? Just one more thing to add. Boston. All right, well, welcome. Glad you're here.
Stay warm.
Okay, who else? Wait, I'm trying to make, I don't know how to make it go away. Oh, it goes by itself.
Yeah.
All right, so who else? Anybody else like to share? I want to know what your sense is. Maybe Mariel, you've been doing a lot of planetary healing work. How do you see this as useful for planetary healing? Can you put that into words?
What was the question? How do I see it?
This meditation and this place that many of us have gotten to in doing the work tonight. I don't know what your own experience was, but how do you see it as a planetary healing tool?
Expanding consciousness and being more aware of a connection. I don't actually at this moment. I don't really feel like sharing the experience.
Okay. I can understand that.
Yeah. It's been a big day today. So.
Okay. Well, I hope it helped you.
Well, we were happy to be here.
Very happy to be here.
I'm just in the kitchen because we're exhausted and hungry, but I love the eyes of my heart. First of all, I've often talked to the ears, but it was a different experience, and I really, going into the pond itself, I just kept merging with everything, and also I got so merged. I was out to the very edges of the cosmos, and just in a place of stillness. But I didn't have an experience of going. In fact, I don't even remember the Big Bang part wherever I was. In terms of, I didn't quite get your question because I just went into the kitchen to feed dogs and take care of people.
Oh, Debbie, can you bring them back? I hit the wrong button and they've disappeared.
I can do it.
Mariel and Michael. But
Hold
the
on.
question was, how do we use this tool, this meditation, this way of experiencing the universe as a healing tool for the planet?
Well, I think it's really important the more experience the interconnectedness with everyone and everything and the elements and everything like that, that automatically takes us into a new realm of being, a new way of relating. And I think to continue to deepen that is really important. The more that we can recognize the inseparability with everyone and everything. And I like that you brought elements in there and that kind of thing. I think that's really important for global and planetary healing. I'm excited about it.
You want to tell people about what you're doing next week?
What am I doing? Oh, next week?
Or whenever you're, I know you.
Yeah, actually, it fits really, really well in with what we're doing. There's a woman named Christina Donald that I have experienced the most profound, deep meditations with. She lived with a Caro for 25 years. Actually was married to the shaman, and she wrote Transcendent Dreaming, but she's done some amazing work with unity consciousness. So our new moon call on Tuesday morning, I think most people, I don't know if most people on here know, but you can get a hold of Marielle and find out how to get on it. But she does really she does these transmissions that I don't know, I really love it. So I'm excited about our new moon called the Global Call to Action, which of course we kicked off, you and I, originally when we started doing those. So yeah, it's going to be a great one on Tuesday, and just call support at welloflight.com and Marielle will get you signed up and on the call.
Or you can just go to the website, Well of Light, and sign up there.
Yeah, thanks for I really love that. I appreciate that. Thanks. Hi, Mark. Love you, brother.
Mark?
Is he there?
He's in the kitchen fixing dinner.
Oh, that's what I was doing in the kitchen. That's where all good men belong, in the kitchen, while their women are creating planetary healing. I think that's perfect. Tell him I said so.
Did you hear
Bye,
him?
everybody.
All good men. All right.
Nikki, there was another share that on the chat that I thought to read out from Maria.
Okay.
My heart feels yet so full, just beautifully blissful and accepting. Thank you so much. It was exactly what I needed. Total peace. Oh, and I saw the magnetic energy between the planets throughout the universe. It had the feeling of a very subtle dance, but one that holds strong, just like the silk of a spider's web. I gotta go, but I love you, Mark, and everyone on the call. Brightest blessings. And that was Maria.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to share or has any questions?
On the chat, there was a couple others. Deborah O'Neill. Thank you, Nikki. Loved it. felt like an additional heart opener. Widening of the field, must run, have a salsa dance, love you lots. Margaret Motherall, excuse me. Been falling asleep in all the meditations a while. So I always see that pool when I follow Anubis and go to see Seshet.
Oh, interesting. So before we disband for now, I am starting in a week Sekhmet, Transformation in the Belly of the Goddess, a 3-week class, Monday and Thursday nights from 5:30 to probably around 7:30 or 8. And if it Pacific. So there's still time and a little bit of room if anybody else wants to join that. And if there's nobody else that wants to share, give you one last shout out.
There was a question earlier on before from Patricia. She's asking, what is cosmic law?
What is cosmic law? Well, we have laws that are passed by Congress, and we're getting a really good look at the fallacy of people's law these days, in that they're based on something other than universal intelligence and consciousness at the level that we're attempting to achieve. And so when we're serving Ma'at, we are aligning our will and our actions to a greater sense of truth, justice, balance, and cosmic law. We've just gotten so far from it on this planet that we're, on a precipice. We're in serious trouble. And so we're trying to find our way back to what real truth and what are the real rules of life. It didn't come with a manual. And we sure aren't getting it from the people we look to as leaders. And it's kind of up to each of us to find it and recognize it ourselves. Go ahead, Tammy.
I wanted to speak to your question of how does this support planetary healing, and I would say that this was hugely successful as you asked us to experience wordlessness, and we all did. I think everybody described the same kind of giving and receiving of energy and being a part of one pool within and without. I know I felt that. And when we connect around the globe like we are and send out that vibration and go into it, of course it heals the planet. And I also wanted to share how I am feeling after the meditation, the vibration that is running primarily through my heart, but really through my whole body is something like I've never quite felt before. And I will be interesting to see what kind of lasting results it has, because it's about raising our vibration. Everything from manifesting to, it's all about vibration. And I am vibrating just beautifully. Thank you again.
Thank you, because that's really one of the things that I was looking for.
Yeah.
Is how the frequency changed, how what happens when we become a beacon at that level.
Yeah.
What happens to us, and how does it work, and how does it last, and what does it do, and what can we do with it? So I feel like in the next month or so or two, we'll do this again and
They should keep doing it on their own.
find out what the next step is. But meanwhile, if everybody practices and everybody does their exercises.
Judy Ann has a question.
Okay, let's go to Judy Ann. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Tammy. Yes, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, if we were going to put, when we start this meditation to do what we're just doing to connect, if you could put that into word, what would be our intent when we start off? What would be our intent?
I think the people that have shared have pretty much all shared some aspect of my intention. But I can go back to the beginning where I said what our goals were, and that would probably be a really good place to close. Thank you for that really good question.
Thank you.
Let me go back to, okay. Well, the first goal was to open the eyes of the heart. And then the next goal would be to understand what did that mean? And what would that do? And to learn how to get out of the way to accomplish it so that we would have direct access to a higher intelligence. And as I assumed, or not, I couldn't assume anything, but as I kind of guessed, that would require a change in frequency. And to become that beacon is, to me, like becoming a tuning fork. So that when you're radiating, if you practice enough that you're functioning at that level, walking around, living your life, and beaming out that frequency, then you don't have to say a word. It's like when I come back from Egypt, I never could say anything for years about what actually happened there, except, oh, it was the best trip ever. And yet, people would be changed in my presence and in the presence of everybody that was on the trip, because they became a beacon, in a sense, a tuning fork. They had been rung on the walls of the temples of Egypt to the point that they vibrated at a different level. So, of course, it was my hope that a meditation like this could do that. We all can't afford to go to Egypt. And a lot of the other paths, like, hanging out for 25 years with the Keros, or some of the other ways to get to it, I'm always looking for, how do we do it now? We don't have time for the slow process of evolution. And so I'm told, yeah, we can do it, but we have to work at it. And if you're up for it, we'll see where this takes us. And with that,
Nikki, there's a couple of more things in the chat. If you don't,
Okay,
before you
please.
Deneen wrote, interesting, when I went to Mary Magdalene's church, there was one magnetic shield with an X on it, with 6 golden shields surrounding the dragon's labyrinth. The labyrinth was made of 883 rose quartz and 5 large crystal quartz. Felt connected.
Wow.
And Patricia wrote in answering, thank you, Nikki, for answering about the cosmic law. I think my question was more wondering about which are the cosmico law, such as the law of order or the law of vibration. What are the other laws? But in reality, maybe it doesn't matter that I know intellectually what they are, although I'm curious. But that I'm in a state of that higher vibration. I like seeing through the heart. Thank you.
Well, I would say to that it's really up to each person to find that for themselves. And this is a map through which I would hope that people could do that. And yeah, it sort of takes me back to the chapter on ethics in alchemical healing, where you can't it's a very personal thing. And yet we're talking about universal. So you have to get out of the way to get to that place of intelligence. And in the presence of that intelligence, ask the question. That's why we had all those questions. I love you all, and I'm so glad that you came. I'm really excited about this new work and this new year, and it's just going to get better and better. So thank you all. Good night.
Found it yourself.
Peppers.
Oh.